Rosa's first day back at school. How to overcome your anxiety. Once upon a time, in a quaint little town nestled between rolling green hills and vibrant flower-filled meadows, there lived a little girl named Rosa. She was a girl of many talents, with a mind full of imagination and a heart full of dreams. Rosa's most cherished activities were drawing and playing music. She could spend hours creating beautiful pictures of the world around her or practicing sweet melodies on her little piano, letting each note carry her away to a world of her own. As the summer days passed by in a gentle breeze, Rosa spent her time outdoors, sketching the colorful butterflies that fluttered around the garden and listening to the birds sing their morning songs. She loved the peace and quiet of the summer, the way the days seemed to stretch endlessly under the warm sun. But all good things must come to an end, and soon the first day of the new school year was just around the corner. Normally, Rosa would have been excited to return to school. She loved learning new things, especially in her music and art classes, where she could express her creativity. But this year was different. As the first day of school approached, Rosa began to feel something she had never felt before: anxiety. The night before school started, Rosa lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The room was dark except for the soft glow of the moonlight streaming through the window. She clutched her blanket tightly, trying to push away the nervous thoughts that swirled in her mind. What if I've forgotten how to talk to my classmates? She wondered. What if they all notice how quiet I've become? As the clock ticked on, Rosa's worries only grew stronger. By the time she finally fell asleep, it was late into the night, and her dreams were filled with strange and unsettling images of crowded classrooms and unfamiliar faces. The next morning, Rosa woke up with a heavy heart. The sun was shining brightly, but to Rosa, it felt like a cloudy day. She dragged herself out of bed and got dressed slowly, her usual excitement for the first day of school nowhere to be found. As she ate her breakfast, the food tasted bland and unappetizing, and her hands trembled slightly as she held her spoon. Her mother noticed her unease. "Rosa, are you feeling all right?" her mother asked gently, her voice full of concern. "I'm fine, Mama," Rosa replied quietly, forcing a small smile. But inside, she felt anything but fine. As she walked to school, the familiar path felt different, longer, somehow, and more daunting. The tall trees that lined the road seemed to loom over her, and the chirping of birds, which usually made her feel happy, now seemed distant and hollow. With each step, her anxiety grew, making her feet feel like they were weighed down by heavy stones. When she arrived at school, the playground was already buzzing with activity. Children ran around, laughing and shouting, excited to see their friends after the long summer break. But instead of joining in, Rosa hesitated at the entrance, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt like an outsider, as if she didn't belong. Taking a deep breath, Rosa walked through the gates, keeping her head down. She made her way to the classroom, trying to avoid eye contact with anyone. As she entered the room, her classmates were already chatting excitedly, sharing stories about their summer adventures. Rosa slipped into her seat quietly, hoping no one would notice her. She arranged her pencils and notebook neatly on her desk, trying to focus on the routine tasks to calm her racing thoughts. Throughout the morning, Rosa stayed quiet. In every class, she listened carefully but didn't raise her hand to answer questions like she usually did. During recess, she sat on a bench at the edge of the playground, watching the other children play. She wanted to join them, to laugh and run around like she used to, but something held her back. The noise, the crowd, it all felt overwhelming. Lunchtime came, and Rosa found a quiet corner of the cafeteria to eat her meal. She picked at her food, her appetite gone. As she looked around the room, she noticed how happy everyone else seemed. They were talking and laughing with each other, sharing their favorite moments from the summer. Rosa felt a pang of loneliness in her heart. Why can't I feel like that? She thought to herself. Finally, it was time for music class, Rosa's favorite part of the day. Normally, the sound of instruments tuning and voices warming up would fill her with joy. But today, even this seemed daunting. As she entered the music room, she chose a spot at the back of the class, away from the other students. She felt safer there, less visible. Mr. Anderson, the music teacher, was a kind and cheerful man who had a special way of making everyone feel comfortable in his class. He greeted the students with his usual warmth, and they all responded eagerly. Rosa, however, remained quiet. She felt a lump in her throat as the class began to sing their first song. She knew the melody well, but her voice was barely a whisper. She kept her eyes on the floor, hoping no one would notice how quiet she was. But Mr. Anderson did notice. He had always seen Rosa as one of his most enthusiastic students, someone who loved to sing and play music with all her heart. Her sudden change in behavior worried him. After the class ended, as the students began to leave, Mr. Anderson approached Rosa. He knelt down to her level, so they were eye to eye, and spoke softly. "Rosa, is everything all right? You seemed a little different today," he said, his voice full of concern. Rosa looked up at him, surprised by his kindness. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. She felt the lump in her throat grow bigger, and tears welled up in her eyes. She quickly looked away, embarrassed. I just don't feel like myself," she finally admitted, her voice trembling. "I'm scared that everyone's looking at me and thinking I'm strange. I don't know how to be around so many people anymore." Mr. Anderson listened patiently, nodding as she spoke. "It's okay to feel that way, Rosa," he said gently. "You've spent a lot of time away from school, and it's normal to feel a bit out of place when you come back. But I want you to remember something: everyone else is adjusting too, even if they don't show it. And no one is judging you as harshly as you think. They're all too busy worrying about themselves." Rosa wiped away a tear, feeling a little comforted by his words. "But what if I can't stop feeling this way?" she asked quietly. Mr. Anderson smiled warmly. "Feelings like this don't go away overnight, but there are things you can do to help. Focus on what you love, your music, your art. When you're doing something you enjoy, the worries start to fade away. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, take a deep breath and remind yourself that you're not alone. It's okay to take things one step at a time." Rosa felt a small spark of hope in her heart. Mr. Anderson's words made sense. Maybe, just maybe, she could find her way through this. "Thank you, Mr. Anderson," she said, her voice a little stronger. "I'll try." The next day, Rosa woke up feeling a bit lighter. The nervousness was still there, but it didn't feel as overwhelming as before. She got dressed and ate her breakfast, and as she walked to school, she repeated Mr. Anderson's words in her mind. "Focus on what you love. Take things one step at a time." At school, Rosa still felt a little shy, but she decided to push herself just a little. During her art class, she raised her hand to answer a question. Her voice was quiet, but it didn't tremble as much as before. In music class, she stood a little closer to the front and sang a little louder. The more she focused on the things she loved, the less she worried about what others might think. By the end of the week, Rosa felt more like herself again. She started to join in conversations with her classmates and even played a game with them during recess. The school still felt busy and loud, but it no longer seemed so scary. As the days turned into weeks, Rosa's confidence grew. She realized that she didn't need to be perfect or always feel comfortable. It was okay to have bad days, to feel nervous or shy. What mattered was that she kept trying, kept focusing on the things that made her happy. And so, Rosa's first day back at school, which had started with so much anxiety, turned out to be the beginning of a new journey, a journey of learning to be kind to herself, to embrace her feelings, and to take things one step at a time. She discovered that by focusing on what she loved, she could find her way back to joy, even when the path seemed difficult. And with each new day, Rosa's heart felt a little lighter, her smile a little brighter, as she embraced the beautiful adventure of growing up.